History is full of victorious generals who seized the throne, but the defining act of George Washington's career was walking away from it. In 1732, the year Washington was born, North America was a collection of agrarian settlements. These 13 colonies, highlighted in pink, were entirely dependent on the British crown. Washington's father died when George was 11, ending chances for a university education. Instead, he turned to the frontier, learning the practical trade of land surveying. Throughout his teens, he mapped the wilderness, measuring thousands of acres of undeveloped territory. The work required him to navigate miles of rough landscape alone, recording precise details of the terrain. This transition from fatherless child to frontier surveyor forced him into a life of self-taught discipline. It provided the physical endurance and resilience required to sustain an army through years of extreme isolation. In the 1750s, Washington participated in the French and Indian War. It was a brutal education. He made significant tactical errors, but he learned the complexities of military logistics and the difficulty of leading men under fire. Following that war, Great Britain faced massive debts and began imposing new taxes on the colonies. Because the colonists had no political representation in London, they viewed these measures as a violation of their rights as British subjects. By 1775, the tension had turned into open revolution. The Continental Congress turned to Washington, appointing him commander-in-chief of a newly formed, largely untrained army. He accepted a mission that appeared suicidal. He was tasked with leading an unfunded, disorganized militia against the most powerful navy and professional military on the planet. The war began with a series of disasters. Washington's troops lacked consistent food, uniforms, and ammunition. As conditions worsened, massive desertions threatened to dissolve the army entirely. In a desperate attempt to save the revolution, Washington led his troops across the Delaware River during a winter storm on Christmas night 1776. The surprise victory in Trenton provided the morale boost the fading rebellion needed to survive. The winter at Valley Forge in 1777 saw the army devastated by starvation and cold. Without boots or blankets, thousands of soldiers succumbed to frostbite and outbreaks of disease in their cramped winter huts. While other officers might have sought warmer quarters, Washington remained in the camp. He stayed physically present with his soldiers, enduring the same shortages and conditions as the men he commanded. The survival of the Continental Army didn't depend on superior weaponry. It hinged on Washington's personal presence, providing the gravity needed to hold the fracturing force together. In 1781, Washington coordinated a decisive trap at Yorktown. American ground forces moved into position, while French naval ships blocked the coast, cutting off British retreat. With supply lines severed, Lord Cornwallis surrendered, ending the British attempt to reclaim the colonies. After the victory, Washington was the most powerful figure in North America. He held the total loyalty of a victorious army in a new nation whose civilian government was still weak and organized. Rather than using his military influence to seize political control, Washington walked into the halls of Congress, resigned his commission, and returned to his home as a private citizen. This voluntary abdication of power stunned observers around the world. It established the precedent that the United States would be a republic ruled by laws, not by the will of a military leader. When the first post-war government began to fail, Washington was called back to public life. In 1787, he presided over the Constitutional Convention in this room, providing the legitimacy the delegates needed to draft a new framework. The new Constitution shifted sovereignty from a monarch to the citizens. It divided federal authority into 3 distinct branches, ensuring that no single person could hold unchecked power. Elected unanimously in 1789, Washington had to invent the presidency from scratch. He had to define how the executive branch would interact with Congress and the public, without mirroring the traditions of a king. His administration focused on stabilizing the economy. Alongside Alexander Hamilton, he established a national bank, cleared the nation's debts, and maintained a policy of neutrality in foreign conflicts. These early years turned a theoretical document into a functioning government, providing the stability the country needed to survive its first decade. After 2 terms, Washington chose to step down again. This established the peaceful transfer of power as a core American tradition, ensuring the presidency would be a temporary office rather than a lifelong appointment. In his farewell address, he left specific warnings for the country, identifying hyper-partisanship and permanent foreign alliances as the two greatest threats to the Republic's future. He retired to Mount Vernon, his Virginia estate, returning to the life of a private landowner that he had left decades earlier. However, Washington's life was marked by a deep contradiction. While he championed political liberty, his estate and his wealth relied on the labor of hundreds of enslaved people who were denied that same freedom. Late in his life, he began to express doubts about the system of slavery. In his final will, he became the only slaveholding founding father to mandate the legal emancipation of the people he held in bondage. Washington's final legacy is rooted in his ability to master his own ambition. By repeatedly choosing to relinquish power, he ensured the American democratic machinery would depend on the Constitution rather than his own presence.